How did university become a holding pattern for the real world? When did it become okay to spend years being uncertain about the future?
Well, it's not okay. Not for us anyway. University should be an adventure, and we should salute the adventurous.
It should be where students picture a future that's vivid and alluring, where they feel confident and clear, not merely informed or knowledgeable.
It must be about outcomes, not just intakes, where the getting of wisdom exceeds the supply of knowledge.
For our part, we must be there for the curious, the disruptors, and the unsure. For those starting out, to those coming back for further skills.
And will always respect their optimism and admire their spirit. Because these are the people who tomorrow will challenge and shape our world. And that's something worth believing in.
Good morning, everybody. Well, Minjaka and welcome. My name is Andrew Peters. I'm a lecturer here at Swinburne in Indigenous Studies as well as Tourism. And it's my very great pleasure to perform an acknowledgement to country this morning. Auntie Joy Murphy called me this morning and apologised that due to, I think, some family commitments, she wasn't able to make it to perform a welcome to country. And Auntie Joy, I've known since I was a very, very small boy. She's virtually an auntie to me, hence the name Auntie. But it's wonderful to be able to get her permission to perform an acknowledgement to country on her behalf, particularly for such an important event. I've been a staff member here at Swinburne for around 15 years now, and it's almost 20 years including my undergrad degree. So in a sense, they're not able to get rid of me. I was just thinking there's such a wonderful array of distinguished people in the room that now would be the time to go and have a party in my office because no one's going to be there to tell me off. I'll also talk about the limp that I've got in case anyone's wondering. It was NAIDOC week last week and I was doing traditional dance with some brothers and I did the kangaroo jumping up and down when I was supposed to do the emu and landed wrongly. So, my bad. It's wonderful to be able to officially welcome and open this Advanced Manufacturing and Design Centre here. It's a wonderful building. We've been using it for a little while now with some great success, of course, and it's just wonderful to have so many wonderful facilities. The factory of the future downstairs, as some of us have lovingly called the Death Star, is another wonderful innovation in the way that it utilises results-based technology and interdisciplinary research to function, reminding me very, very much of the fundamental principles behind the indigenous knowledges that my ancestors used on this very land for thousands of years before we arrived and started putting piles of concrete on top of it. The way that Indigenous peoples created their own knowledge and learned about their environment was very, very heavily based on experience and experiential learning, on doing things and practicing, on listening to elders, those that had done things before, learning from the mistakes that they had made, but also learning from the victories and the successes that they've had. And again, that fundamental principle is what's driving the innovation at this university at the moment. And that is very, very obvious in the development of this building and particularly of the two centres that we were talking about today. The fact that Swinburne is on Wurundjeri country is something that I'm very proud of as a descendant of the Wurundjeri and Yorta Yorta peoples. My ancestors roamed the land along what we now call the Yarra River and what my ancestors called Birrarung for thousands of years in the Woiwurrung language, which was easier to say before the Europeans came, of course. And all this English words get in the way. In Woiwurrung language, Birrarung meant was the source of food and life for the Wurundjeri people. And from the mouth of the Birrarung in the city of Melbourne right up until where it begins in the Great Dividing Range was the country of the Wurundjeri and Woiwurrung peoples. And as I say, my ancestors roamed this very land that we're on for thousands of years. I feel a great sense of pride being able to learn my craft and develop a career on the very land of the Wurundjeri people. And it really gives me great comfort to know that I'm now making a difference in the lives of other students by teaching them about the connections between Wurundjeri culture as we understood it before the Europeans arrived and our language and our culture today. One of my main aims at the university is to make every Australian and every visitor to Swinburne understand how that connection can be applicable to them. Last year we launched our first Reconciliation Action Plan, where we've encouraged and challenged all staff at the university to find their way to connect with Wurundjeri culture. It's there for all of us. I've mentioned a few times that if you were born in Australia, you were born on Aboriginal land. You are therefore part of Aboriginal culture. In traditional times, or what I like to call pre-contact times, if you were born on country, you had rights and responsibilities to that country, regardless of your bloodlines. You therefore needed to look after that land and the spirits associated with that land, and that land would look after you. Similarly today, there is no reason why we can't embrace that type of connection. That as Australians, no matter what our bloodlines, if you were born here, you are part of that culture and that history now. So you have a right and a responsibility to that land and to uphold that culture and that tradition. If you're a visitor to this land and you were born somewhere else, once you have been welcomed, you then also have rights and responsibilities, as the ancestors did for thousands of years. One of the messages I give to my students to sort of emphasise, I guess, that connection, and something that I think resonates particularly with younger people, is the fact that one of our cultural icons in Melbourne at the moment, and has been for quite some time, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, is situated on the very land where the 5 groups of the Kulin Nation would meet for celebrations, for ceremonies, for traditions, to exchange knowledge, and a variety of other reasons. And today, we have thousands and thousands of people who do that very same thing, congregate in what we call Yarra Park now, to exchange knowledge, to celebrate, for ceremonies, and for a range of different activities. Similarly today, we have a range of wonderful people who have come together to celebrate the opening of a wonderful new building. In traditional times, you would all need to be welcomed by an elder of the Wurundjeri people. That welcome would often go on for 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 days, depending on what the ceremony or what was happening at the time. There would be the burning of the manna gum leaves, and we have manna gum here on campus, and those gum leaves would be burnt, and the smoke would then pass over all the visitors, and once that smoke had enveloped you and you'd been through the welcoming ceremony, you were now considered part of Wurundjeri people and part of the Wurundjeri family. Today, of course, one of the things that wasn't included in this new wonderful AMDC building was a space where we can light a fire and smoke everybody. OH&S took care of that. In place of that, we normally like to hand out a gum leaf from the manna gum to all the visitors as kind of your passport and your welcome to the country. And unfortunately, as I say, due to the late notice of this, I wasn't able to gather enough gum leaves for you. But please take this as a symbolic gesture from me that I'm now passing out a gum leaf to all of you. The manna gum represents the culture of the Wurundjeri people. So once you receive the leaf, or in traditional times once you were enveloped by the smoke of the manna gum, you are then welcome to everything on Wurundjeri land, from the tops of the trees and the air around it, to the roots in the soil and the land that it touches. The 2 spirits of the Wurundjeri, Wah, the black raven, and Bunjil, the creator spirit eagle, the wedge-tailed eagle, would therefore be looking out for you. And often here on campus we can hear Wah, the black raven, calling out. And as I say to everyone or anyone who'll listen now, that's Wah telling us when you hear his call, Wah, Wah. That's Wah saying that he's here to protect us and he's looking after us and that everything is okay. So in that spirit, I'd like to thank you all for coming and welcome you to Wurundjeri land and welcome you to this exciting new building that has its roots in Wurundjeri culture and Wurundjeri history. And again, with permission from Auntie Joy, I'd like to finish by saying, Wurundjeri balwa minjika yimin kundi bik. The Wurundjeri people welcome you to this land today. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. My name is Geoff Brooks, as it says up there, and I'm the Pro Vice-Chancellor for Future Manufacturing. A very important thing to tell you is I'm a graduate of this university, so this is a very proud day for me. I'd like to welcome everybody to this official launch of Swinburne's Advanced Manufacturing Design Centre, the Factory of the Future, and the ARC Training Centre in Biodevices. This is very exciting for students and staff in this university today. but also our friends from industry and the community who are here. So we really thank you for coming here today and joining us in this celebration of this magnificent facility. Before we commence today's proceedings, I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off your mobile phones to silent, and I also should tell you that we are recording this event and making it available on our website. In the case of emergency, please don't panic. Please calmly follow some of our staff outside and they'll direct you to the nearest safest place. The first speaker will be our Chancellor, that's Mr. Graham Goldsmith, and he's been the Chancellor since August 2014. And he's a highly respected figure in Australian financial services, and he's an experienced company director, and he's had a very long-term interest in education. One thing that Graham and I share together, we both studied here when this was the Institute of Technology, and he graduated not that far from me, so we must be about the same age, in business accounting, and he did an advanced management program at Harvard as well as subsequently. He's held a lot of senior roles, but including the chair of Goldman Sachs Australian Foundation, and he retired in 2012. He looks a bit young to retire, in my opinion, but he's after 25 years with that firm. So I'd like to please ask the Chancellor, Graham Goldsmith, to come and speak about the opening. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Geoff. Vice-Chancellor, Professor Linda Kristjanson, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Federal Minister for Education and Training, Senator the Honourable Scott Ryan, the Victorian Minister for Training and Skills and Minister for International Education, the Honourable Steve Herbert, distinguished state members of Parliament, Mr Frank Maguire, Mr David Southwick, and our member for Hawthorne, Mr John Pizzuto, the Mayor of Boroondara, Councillor Coral Ross, CEO of the Australian Research Council, Professor Aidan Byrne, former Chancellor Dr Bill Scales, AO, past and present members of Swinburne's Council, students, alumni, friends, and distinguished guests. To all of you, welcome. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I would also like to thank Andrew for his inspiring acknowledgement of country. This building is a marriage of design, manufacturing, and technology. It captures what we are trying to achieve at Swinburne by supporting students, researchers, and industry to learn and work collaboratively. It is clever. It is where creative people can work together. Wilkinson Eyre Architects, in conjunction with Jacobs Australia, have done an impressive job to show this through the design of the building. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the support of the Commonwealth Government and to thank the various donors, companies, and government bodies who have contributed to the creation of this space. Thank you to the Builder Lend-Lease and the major projects team from Swinburne's own Facilities and Services Group for their tireless effort to see this project through. We are already reaping the rewards of having this space. On the ground floor of this building is the Factory of the Future, a hub for students, alumni, and the wider community to explore ideas for manufacturing products. Having the Factory of the Future in this location says to anybody that looks through the window, this is what Swinburne is about. And that's a credit to the designer, H2O Architects. I'd like to acknowledge the partnerships that have already been forged by the Factory of the Future with Sandvik and Eon Reality. Today we are also launching the ARC Training Centre in Biodevices, a space within the Factory of the Future which will develop the next generation of leaders in the medical device and diagnostics industry. The Australian Research Council provided $1.8 million in funding for this centre, and generous industry partners have also provided financial support. Importantly, I would like to thank the researchers, academics, students and industry partners who are already using this space to make their mark in the design, manufacturing and technology industries. It is the work that is captured within these walls that cements Swinburne as a driver of innovation. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Chancellor. That was very good, thank you. We're now going to be having a talk from the Honourable Steve Herbert, and he's the Minister for Training and Skills, obviously an important relevance to what we're doing here. And he has had a passionate commitment to public education and dual sector universities in TAFE over a long time. He represented Eltham as a Member of Parliament from 2002 to 2014. And in the 2014 election, he was elected as a member of the Legislative Council and sworn in as the Minister for Training and Skills. I'm told that he has a daughter, I believe, as a student here. I hope that she survived my lectures, as is in my courses. And since his appointment, he's been doing a lot to try and build up the training and education aspect in Victoria. So it's a pleasure to welcome Minister Steve Herbert to come and speak.
Thank you. Can I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my respect to their elders, past and present, and to Andrew Peters, who delivered the welcome ceremony. To the many VIPs that are here, I'll just mention a few, so otherwise I'll be speaking long past my allotted time scale, that's for sure. The Honourable Scott Ryan, of course, Federal Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister for Education and Training, Professor Aidan Byrne, CEO, Australian Research Councillor, Chancellor Graham Goldsmith, Vice-Chancellor Linda Kristjanson, my parliamentary colleagues. We have Frank Maguire, MP here. We have David Southwick, and of course we have John Pasuto, member for Hawthorn. Ladies and gentlemen, brilliant people who are making a difference to our state and our nation. It is a pleasure to be here, and I should say I'm a past graduate of Swinburne also, although I surmise that I'm more successful now in later life than I was earlier as a student. Look, it's really fantastic to be here, and can I congratulate all involved on this, the Advanced Manufacturing and Design Centre. It symbolises all that Australia does well in terms of innovation and in terms of blending technology with human resources. But can I particularly congratulate Swinburne on assembling a huge array of talented, innovative and passionate people who are the heart behind what happens in this centre. We had an opportunity to speak with some of them beforehand, and you cannot be impressed about the level of expertise and passion coming together to actually drive what happens out of this centre, and without them it would simply be a building. So congratulations to Swinburne on that. $100 million centre, advanced design, incredibly important for our state. The Chancellor mentioned part of the heart of the centre, what it does is about collaboration. Can I say that the centre comes about through collaboration? You know, $40 million of the centre was, of course, provided by the former federal Labor government. And in fact, my very dear friend Kim Carr, I was fishing with him up in the Snowy a few months before announcement, and I know how proud he was of this providing funding for this project. And it's important, it doesn't matter what side of politics you're on. What's important in terms of transforming our economy and in transforming our industry and transforming our opportunities is about collaboration in these new ventures between government, universities that have the heart of the knowledge, and industry that will drive productivity and drive growth and drive economic activity. And that's what this centre is, at the heart of this centre, research around that growth, and I think it's vitally important to always remember that we do things better when we cooperate together. From the Victorian government's perspective, of course, there can be no stronger priority than for our state to rebuild and strengthen our economy, our economic advantage, our industries, and the jobs and opportunities for people that come with that growth. In terms of my capacity as the Minister for Skills, the agenda is very straightforward. It's about building quality skills amongst the people of Victoria. It's about building quality skills that lead to quality jobs, real jobs, and it's about ensuring that those skills and those jobs add real productivity and profit to industry so that the economy can strengthen and the circle goes on of skills, jobs, productivity, a stronger economy and a stronger Victoria and a stronger Australia. And it's in that context that I thought I might just take this opportunity to make an announcement. Always good to have a minister make an announcement. And I've got to say I'm absolutely delighted to announce today that the Victorian Government will be providing Swinburne with $1.3 million from the TAFE Back to Work Fund for a new initiative entitled New Energy Technology and Construction Technology Initiative. This funding will go towards forming a partnership between Swinburne University and the Sereno Russo Group to help young people, young unemployed people, make a smooth transition from pre-apprenticeship to jobs. The project will basically work with unemployed young people, retrenched workers, newly arrived migrants to the southeast of Melbourne, and provide real skills around new energy and construction technologies, provide direct access to employers, and to tailor workplace support. Real opportunities to get into the workplace and help get a secure long-term job for those unemployed people. It will provide 730 people with skills and experience and assistance to get jobs in that energy and construction areas. It's a great initiative. I want to congratulate Swinburne for coming together with Sereno Russell and putting forward this project. I look forward to the outcomes, and once again, can I just congratulate Swinburne. It's a good example today of the spectrum of education that exists in Victoria, from the very top PhD research, cutting edge collaboration with industry that we see out of this centre, to programs designed for the most disadvantaged, helping them get a job and getting them off that treadmill of unemployment onto that footpath of success. Congratulations to Swinburne. Thank you very much.
Double thank you. That's very wonderful. Make sure that man gets the first scone when he goes out. And it's wonderful. Thank you. And I know that I go about the Wanturna, and where a lot of that training sort of goes on, and I know that that money will be very well spent. So that's very exciting. Thank you very much. We now have another intimate person that we'd like to thank a lot, and that is Professor Aidan Byrne, who's the CEO of the Australian Research Council. And he was appointed in that role in 2012. That is a very responsible role, I would hasten to suggest to everybody here. And he comes from a background in physics and mathematics, and he also has, talking to him, I can see he has quite a love of materials and engineering as well. And the ARC, as you'll be aware, is trying to develop Australia's research and innovation. And in keeping with that, they have really supported us with the development of our ARC training centre in Biodevices, which is a very innovative idea about bringing industry and students together, which you'll hear more about and see more about today. So it's a pleasure for me to ask Professor Byrne to come up here and explain all about that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Geoff. I too would like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I'd like to acknowledge Senator the Honourable Scott Ryan, the Honourable Steve Herbert, Chancellor and Vice-Chancellor. Nice to be here. I too would like to pay my respects and acknowledge the partners, and indeed particularly the industry and university partners that come together to make things like this truly operational. I'm here today not just because there's an Advanced Manufacturing and Design Centre, but really to launch the Australian Research Council Training Centre in Biodevices. I've already had a tour of the centre, and this is a very exciting new initiative that's integrating learning, research and industry, and I think I've already seen the degree of excitement that is there. And so it's particularly exciting for me when one of the Australian Research Council's training centres are housed within a building and a space like this one. Researchers at this training centre will assist Australian biodevice and diagnostic companies to develop the next generation of innovative and profitable products to address important healthcare needs in our communities. And they'll achieve this by addressing industry-specific challenges relating to the multidisciplinary nature of design and development in biodevices and diagnostics. And what they'll do is look at technology uptake and transfer and take it into manufacturing, and to develop the high-level entrepreneurial skills that's required for today's industry. The training centre will join a growing fleet of industrial transformation centres and hubs that have been opening all around the country. These centres and hubs are focal points of the Australian Research Council's efforts in supporting and fostering strong collaborations between research and industry. Since the inception of this program, a total of 18 research hubs and 16 training centres have received almost 114 million in ARC funding. And the Industrial Transformation Research Program funds training centres and research hub. And this scheme plays an important role in enabling the Australian government to deliver on its commitment to boost the commercial returns of research. And all of this is part of the wider linkage program within the ARC's National Competitive Grants Program. And for almost 15 years now, this program's been a vital enabler, providing over $1 billion to researchers and industry to work together to the benefit of the nation. From day one, ARC training centres like this one demonstrate how to bring an industry focus into a research setting. And the key to this, of course, is embedding highly skilled PhD and postdoctoral researchers into an industry-linked research setting. And I'd particularly like to congratulate Swinburne and indeed the director, Professor Paul Stoddart, for the vision and expertise in biomedical engineering which comes together in this centre today. The whole sector, I think, is watching you to see how the centre takes breakthrough science and turns it into commercial reality. Because the whole sector, including the ARC, is tackling the same challenge and asking, how do we effectively bring research and industry together in Australia? Less than 1 in 3 Australian researchers today work in industry, which is half the average of OECD countries. And in comparison, the US has 4 out of 5 of every researchers in the business sector. But this training centre is different, and we hope the lessons learned here can be applied more widely to make Australian businesses more integrated with our already excellent research talent environment. And there are many great people involved in the centre, and I congratulate all of you for your vision. And it's pleasing to see how this ARC training centre is so well integrated into the wider strategy of Swinburne University of Technology. And this is, you know, in many ways embodied in this very, very impressive building. So I'm sure you'll find success, and I wish you all the best. So thank you very much. So I'm going to do the handover. So it's my great pleasure now to be able to introduce the Senator, the Honourable Scott Ryan, Parliamentary Secretary for the Ministry of Education and Training, who is here representing the Minister for Education, the Honourable Christopher Pyne. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So to Steve Herbert, Victorian Minister for Higher Education, to my state parliamentary colleagues, Frank Maguire, David Southwick, and in particular the local member, and my friend and Shadow Attorney General John Pasuto, to Linda Kristjanson, Professor Aidan Byrne, who I noted before, it's great to be at functions with Aidan because at universities he gets lobbied for money almost more than I do, to Graham Goldsmith, the Chancellor, to Professor Schubik, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research, and Professor Paul Stoddart, the Director of the ARC Training Centre that we're launching today. Thank you for the opportunity to come along and to represent the Commonwealth Government. I bring the best wishes from the Minister, Christopher Pyne, who's unable to attend today, because visiting facilities like this and indeed visiting centres of learning is one of the great privileges of my job. I spend a great deal of time in schools, and I've had the privilege, particularly around Victoria, of visiting a great number of these sorts of facilities that were opened with investments over the last few years. And while Steve did mention that it was an announcement of the previous government, I am compelled to mention that I did call Peter Costello while I was on the way here. I'm not joking, I did. Every so often when I'm opening a building that was built with the Higher Education Endowment Fund that he set up, our back in the days of the Howard government. I do actually call him just to point out that something's coming to fruition. He did say it was fantastic that he was getting yet another building named after him too. Anyway, so I do feel compelled to make that point that one of the reasons in these debates about politics, and this isn't a time for it, that we do have that, is that when governments have money and when governments have the ability to make additional investments in facilities like this, we can see the extraordinary equipment downstairs. Now, I'm not a graduate of this university. I'm indeed not a graduate of anything like science or engineering. I'm an arts graduate from Melbourne Uni, basically who studied economics and politics. I had trouble building a bread box when I was in year 9 and 10 woodwork at school. But what I saw downstairs, you don't have to be an expert to understand how that sort of equipment is going to change our world. For the last 110 years, our prosperity, our employment and things we consume, things that we use, everything from medicines to cars has been based on an industrial model that homogenised, that was based on mass production, that was based on churning out as much as we could at the lowest possible price. And what we see downstairs is how our economic model and how our children are actually going to see the world a little bit differently. Because whether it's medicines, and I have worked in the pharmaceutical sector, rest assured I wasn't trusted with any of the actual medicines, or whether it's in medical devices, or whether it's in circuitry that we saw one of the machines making, we're moving to an era that's going to allow a great deal more bespoke manufacturing. And that's going to allow us to do things that we haven't done before. One of my particular passions is in healthcare, and just to think of the way we could bespoke design and manufacture parts, not just genetically in medicines, but physically, whether they be heart valves or new joints or new limbs. The skills that people learn at a place like this and the ability to use that equipment, develop that equipment and put it to use is actually going to as profoundly change our lives in many ways as Henry Ford did when he started churning off black Model T Fords in Detroit 110 years ago. And I don't know if we quite understand as a community just how profound this change is going to be, because I think it is going to be an extraordinary opportunity as well. So it's been a real privilege to come along here and to see that, at work. Professor Byrne mentioned earlier on that one of the challenges this country has is building the linkages between research and commercialisation. Now, the way I like to explain that to people is it's not just about commercialisation, it's building the linkages between research and what they see on the supermarket shelf or what they see and hear when they go to the doctor. Because commercialisation, when we think of it, remember, is really about products that people can use. Commercialisation is what an economist says when someone else says this particular new heart valve or this particular product has made my life easier. Now, I hasten to add we did have a bit of an awkward moment downstairs where someone talked about working with Boeing and planes delaminating, and those of us in politics fly a lot. We didn't want to hear about that. I'm glad that someone acknowledged the Star Wars inspiration for what I saw also, Andrew downstairs. It might just be men of my age. But what I think would be fantastic for all of you people who are passionate about this, who have expertise, whether you're students or teachers, is to talk to people who don't have that understanding. Is to get them to understand and explain what it means when you're learning to design something on a computer and build it in the building next door. I did ask whether the building downstairs was originally a factory, and I think I was told that it was at one point a glass factory, and I think that is a lovely historical juxtaposition for what is going on in that place today, which is how we're going to effectively make the factories of the future. So to everyone involved in this, I'd like to pass on my congratulations. As a member of the Commonwealth, I acknowledge the incredible work Swinburne has done. I did have relatives that came here as well, because it's always been very strong on these linkages between what people learn and how it can be put to work in the workplace, in the community, in business. Swinburne has been a leader in that, and I'm sure this facility as well will continue that record of achievement for Swinburne. So congratulations to everyone today. And I think it's now my opportunity, it's one of the privileges to pull the cord, so I'll ask Linda and the others to come up and we'll be able to conclude this morning's events.
Well, it's my pleasure to offer a vote of thanks, and I'm really grateful to all of you for being with us and being able to join us today. Senator Ryan, we're delighted that you have taken the time to launch what truly is a remarkable building. You've made an impact in your role as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Education and Training, and we're very proud to have a Victorian in such an influential position in shaping the education of the future. I did notice that your biography that indicated you're a member of the Essendon Football Club. And notwithstanding the colours in this room, I have to remind you that you have a very warm welcome to Hawks territory here. I would also like to acknowledge and thank all of you who have contributed to the creation of this building. Your efforts will stand here in Hawthorne for many years to come, but will impact communities far beyond ours. For Australia's industries to prosper, we need to bring together imaginative ideas with technological know-how. And that is what this building is about. It is a space for collaboration. The experience students will gain, the relationships industries will forge, and the research our academics will conduct in this space is just the beginning of what I believe is a road to discovery. I would like to extend a warm personal thank you to Dr. Bill Scales, AO, our former Chancellor, for being with us today. Bill was at the helm at the commissioning of this building, and I think there's few people in the room who understand more deeply the connection between design, innovation, manufacturing, engineering, and science. So thank you, Bill. And I would like to say that there is someone who is not here today, but who would have loved to celebrate this launch, and that is our late friend and esteemed colleague, Professor George Collins. George, our former Deputy Vice-Chancellor Research and Development, was excited by the research we undertake and the relevance to industry and the communities we serve. And so, as we remember you, George, we acknowledge your support for this exceptional facility. I would like to also extend a very warm thank you to Minister Herbert for your uplifting announcement of Back to Work funding today, which is most heartening, and thank you for your faith in us. And finally, I'd like to thank all of you for being here, for your friendship, and for your support to Swinburne in the work that we do. We encourage you to explore the centre while you are here, and we really hope that you will feel the inspiration and excitement that we celebrate today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Linda. It's wonderful, and it's very nice to remember George. And yes, certainly a bit. I know he would have loved to have been here today. It's very sad for our university, that whole sequence. And while we're thinking, just one more person on the thank you. Is John Bain here today? Is John here? I know John was there go on you, John. John was the former Dean of Engineering here and now at Adelaide, and he certainly was a driving force behind the creation of this building. So thank you, John. It's good that you're here. My job now is just to instruct you about nice things to do. So let me tell you about some of the nice things to do. Just outside this door in the Sky Lounge, we'll have a place for refreshments, and that will be open to everybody, of course. Down on level 1, we're going to have a launch of the Biodevices and of the centre, and also a great opportunity to look around that facility, and that's going to happen in a few minutes. So it's particularly the companies and the people who love biodevices. Please proceed down to the bottom floor. The building, we've provided this fantastic self-guiding the guide here that tells you everything that's in the building. And as I think Minister Herbert pointed out very well, it's all about people. So I just want to just mention a couple of things. On floor 10 is our microphotonics work. And Professor Mingu is one of the smartest people on the face of the earth, as far as I can see, in that area. And if you want to know about the next level of optical storage and what's going on in that area, please go up there and talk to him. You won't find a person who knows more about it. If you go to floor 5, and I'm picking out highlights here, but you're going to have Christine Thong and Anita Kocius and Kurt Seaman, who are absolutely crazy about design and very, very good at it and linked all around the world. And you want to hear about the latest techniques in design and how it can help industries. They're the right people. On floor 2 is the software lab, which is connected to NICTA, and these guys are into really practical solutions for industry, and a very impressive group led by Komizakis, who I'm sure is here somewhere. And of course, on the bottom floor, we've got the Factory of the Future, which is, a baby I'm very emotional about today. But it's also a wonderful facility, and please come and have a look at that. And there are many other wonderful things. I'm picking out some nice things from a whole series of highlights. So that brings these formalities to a close. And please enjoy the rest of the time here. The facilities will be wide open for the next few hours. And please, by all means, take a refreshment. And thank you very much for attending this event.
This has been a Swinburne production.